Hello there, people of the internet. This video is going to be like for new people that don't necessarily understand how projectiles work and how ammunition works. So I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day. So many of these videos come up with just discussions I have with other people, because every time I talk to someone and we're talking about something, I'm like, hey, this would make a really cool video idea. Well, today is probably going to be a pretty quick video idea, but I'm still going to go ahead and talk about it. And whenever I was talking to this guy, he's one of those like new gun owners. We got a whole lot of them here in the United States during all of the panic that was going on in the past couple of years. But this guy had asked me why some projectiles are slower than others, even though they're fired out of the same cartridge, and he just did not seem to comprehend. And I was like, well, a lot of it has to do with your bullet weights. We actually were talking about reloading, and that's where this topic came up, but I'm not going to get into reloading. But I figured I'd go ahead and make a video talking about how bullet weights will affect velocity. And here's a really good, easy way for me to be able to explain it. If you have yourself like a small rock, like a pebble almost, and you throw that thing, you're going to be able to throw it fast and hard. The velocity of that pebble is going to be quite a deal. You know, it's going to be significant. But if you have yourself like a brick and you throw that fucker, well, that brick is going to be thrown a lot slower than that lightweight rock that you were able to throw. If you throw it as hard as you can, then you're going to have that same amount of strength, you know, throwing these two, I guess at that point, projectiles down at wherever it is that you're throwing it at. And one is going to be traveling much faster than the other, just because the lighter weight one obviously has less mass, so it requires less energy for you to be able to get it up to a decent speed. Whereas the brick, it requires quite a bit of energy to get it up to speed. Same thing with ammunition. Whenever you have two projectiles, what's a good example? Here's a good example. I was out here shooting this earlier. This is a 223 5.56 Delton DTI 15. You guys have seen this on the channel plenty of times. But typically whenever I shoot this thing, I shoot 55 grain ammunition through it. Now 55 grain ammunition is going to be traveling at about 3,200 feet per second out of a barrel length like this. And as you fire it, it slows down over time, and we'll discuss that here in a second. But 3,200 feet per second whenever it leaves the muzzle. That is a significant amount of speed. Well, if you were to increase the mass, increase the amount of bullets that you are putting downrange, and you shoot it from the same length barrel, then you're going to have slightly slower velocities just because it takes more to be able to push that bullet. So if we were shooting, say, 62 grain ammunition out of this rifle, we'd probably get more like 3,000 feet per second as opposed to the 3,200 that we would have gotten from the lighter weight projectiles. So hopefully this is an analogy that you guys are able to understand if you do not understand, or if you didn't understand it to begin with. So lighter weight bullets are going to travel faster because there's less mass, they're easier to push. Now that being said, the heavier weight bullets, the reason why people use heavyweight bullets for shooting at extremely long distances, especially if you have like really skinny ones so the wind doesn't deflect them a lot, you get yourself long heavy bullets. What's a good way? Alright, here we're going to use the same analogy. Whenever you throw that rock that you throw is going to go really fast, but then it's going to stop going fast and it's just going to fall on the ground. Odds are whenever you throw that brick, it's going to go slower, but it's going to go farther. It just has more momentum behind it because of its increased mass. It requires less friction to be slowed down and deterred than the lighter weight bullet. I mean, alright, here's another good example. If you had a glass marble and you dropped it on a glass table, odds are the glass table would stop the glass marble. But if you had a bowling ball and you dropped it on the glass table, the bowling ball would go right to the glass table and shatter the table all over the place, and you would have to explain to your mother that you were just trying to do a science project. That's why you destroyed the family heirloom table that's worth, you know, $250,000. So hopefully there's a good solid explanation of why bullet weights will affect velocities, and hopefully I explained it in a way that most people will be able to understand it. If you don't understand, or if you did not understand how projectiles work out of these different cartridges, then Hopefully this helped clear that up some. Now, if you put in, like, for reloading purposes, if you put more powder in behind a projectile and that projectile is heavier, that projectile is going to take more time to speed up to decent velocities as a result of the projectile staying inside of the barrel for more time because it takes more time for it to get out. If you use the same amount of powder that you would for a lighter weight projectile, the pressures will actually build to higher amounts. And if you are rocking a firearm that cannot handle those generated pressures, then you're going to have yourself an issue. So you definitely want to pay attention to things like that if you do decide to reload. But if you have a lightweight projectile, it actually takes more powder as that projectile is pushed out of the barrel. You want to be able to reach those pressures before the projectile actually leaves the barrel, because the projectile there is going to be moving much faster. A lot of people think it's kind of the opposite way. They think heavier projectile requires more powder. Now, the heavier projectile requires less powder to be able to reach the pressures in the firearm that you're wanting to reach to be able to reliably cycle the firearm. But I'm not going to give a complete reloading lesson here. I have no idea how many rounds are inside of this magazine, but I do have a couple of rounds inside of this magazine, and hey, I'm out here at the gun range. Let's go ahead and send a couple of rounds downrange, because why not? Okay, it looks like I only had 2 rounds inside of this magazine, but hey, I did run the firearm. There you guys go. Those were 55 grain projectiles traveling at about 3,200 feet per second. Rough approximation. I don't actually have a chronograph out here, but like I said before, if they were heavier, then they would be traveling slower because they'd be fired out of the same length barrel and they'd be fired out of a 223-556 platform. Now, if I had like a bolt action 223-556 and I was rocking hand-loaded rounds, I could how would I describe it? I could set up the ammunition that I load up to run faster than this right here, a heavier projectile. Like, we are talking, you know, mil-spec ammunition here. We're not talking about like custom loadouts or things that you would run through a semi-automatic platform. Like, of course, I could load up a 70 grain projectile out of a 223 platform. Hell, I could probably get that bastard moving at about 4,000 feet per second if I really wanted to. And if I had a nice, strong rifle to be able to pull that off. But we're talking, you know, factory mil-spec ammunition here. Okay, well, thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate your time. This is kind of a shorter video, but it's one I still wanted to make because I got the question, so there might be other people out there with this same question. So hey, I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description down below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go ahead and go check that out. All right, well, you guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day, and I'll see you all in the next round. I'll see y'all in the next video that I make. Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. The poor man's Garrett. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.